Hey everyone, it's the Tuesday afternoon edition of Weather for Weather Geeks. Before we get to today's weather, I wanted to back up for just a second and talk about last evening out of our viewing area, but over towards the southern end of Cleveland, actually around Brunswick. As you may have heard, there was a confirmed tornado, an EF1 tornado, last evening at about 7 o'clock around the Brunswick, Ohio area. The National Weather Service went out and did survey the damage today, determined it was an EF1 with maximum winds probably around 110 miles per hour or so. This was an unusual and very difficult case. This tornado was probably only on the ground for a few minutes, but it was strong. Usually tornadoes that only get on the ground for a couple of minutes are pretty weak, but this produced quite a bit of damage to several homes, roofs blown off and that sort of thing. Interestingly, there was no tornado warning issued by the National Weather Service for that storm, and it's pretty rare to have an EF1, a high-end EF1 tornado that is not warned. And, it was a little surprising when the Weather Service last night said this was probably a tornado because there was no warning. And even those of us who are not with the National Weather Service, meteorologists, looking at the radar data, we didn't see much of a tornado signature, but there was one scan of the radar last night, only one, that showed what was probably a mesocyclone or a rotating thunderstorm. It was right at 7 o'clock. Your eye over here on the right-hand side, let me pan up to make sure my head's not in the way here. This is the radar velocity data, in other words, what the wind is doing. The radar can see what direction and speed the wind is blowing. The green is wind that is blowing towards the radar site, and then the red is wind blowing away from the radar site. And right here, there's a red next to a green. We call that a couplet, and that means that in a very short distance, the wind was blowing in two different directions. And again, this was only on the radar for one scan. This didn't last very long, so this was a tough one for the Weather Service to diagnose. The other difficulty here was that this was wrapped in rain. Check out where this circulation was, right here, southeast of Valley City, and look at all the rain that was going on right in through there. So this was a heavily rain-wrapped tornado, difficult to spot, but it didn't take people long to, when they looked at the damage after the storm passed, to really conclude quickly that this was probably a tornado and not a downburst or straight line winds, that sort of thing. So that was the story on that last night. We, of course, had some really loud storms across the valley last night, particularly around Mahoning County in the 2 o'clock hour in the morning this morning. Now, other parts of the region had storms earlier, especially in Mercer County. We had quite a bit of rain last evening, but boy, was I awakened in Boardman at about 2:30 this morning by tremendous thunder and very heavy rain, and I'm still without power in Boardman as a result of a tree down the street falling on power lines and power poles. This afternoon, thankfully, is not tremendously busy. We have no severe weather right now, and as of about 2 o'clock, this is really the only cluster of lightning and thunder we have. It's from Struthers down towards Latonia, Lisbon, and then heading over into parts of Lawrence County along 224 and 422. This is a non-severe storm, but it does have some thunder and lightning with it. Otherwise, the state of Ohio seeing just a few popcorn cells right now. Now, we do expect activity to ramp up as we head towards evening, and I'm going to show you that in just a second. Activity is already ramping up out in Indiana. Here's a storm that has a tornado warning on it here in the red polygon. This is southwest of Indianapolis, so that's a little bit interesting. And as we take a look at the country as a whole real quick, I'll take off the satellite data here. What we have going on is a lot of warm and humid air across the eastern U.S., that is for sure, and looks like my internet connection is slowing down, so the data is not going to load. Well, that's fantastic. There we go. A lot of warm and humid air, classic summertime look at this radar once again today. Now, we're going to have to be on the lookout for, much like last night, some stronger storms. The area outlined in yellow here is an area the Storm Prediction Center is watching. It only has a 5% chance, according to their forecast. You only have a 5% chance of seeing damaging wind gusts within 25 miles of any one point in this area. So the odds aren't real high. But much like last night, I think that a lot of these storms that pop up, especially as we head towards 6, 7 o'clock, are going to have quite a bit of rain with them, and some of them can produce some pretty strong winds. But that'll be the exception, not the rule. The rule will be a lot of lightning and thunder and some heavy rain, but the exception, a few of these storms will probably start to get pretty feisty in terms of the wind. All right, so let's talk about what's going to happen as we go into the future then. As I like to do in the short range, we're going to show you the HRRR model, High Resolution Rapid Refresh model. And I'm going to fast forward a couple of hours to about 4 o'clock or so. Now, if you're a regular viewer of these videos, you know that a lot of times the HER model, particularly in the summer season, is a little overdone with how many storms it pops. But nonetheless, despite it often being overdone, it's not showing much here at 4 o'clock. Here it's 5 o'clock this evening, and then 6 o'clock. And this is when the models are pretty much in agreement on this. The busiest part of our day is going to be towards evening. So if you want to mow this afternoon, if you want to do something outdoors, you might be dodging a thunderstorm here and there, but the wettest part of the whole day is this evening, probably 6, 7 o'clock. Here's 7 o'clock this evening, and then 8 o'clock. Pretty active at this point with showers, some heavy rain, some lightning and thunder. And again, I can't rule out that some of these storms get pretty feisty in terms of the wind. Now, we don't need any more rain, particularly over in Mercer County, where we had upwards of one rain gauge report 4 inches or so. Over towards Mercer, up in here, let me pan up. Actually, let me get my bearings here. Over in the center of Mercer County, not the northern part, the center of it, we had quite a bit of rain last night, right in through here, 4 inches or so. So we don't want any more rain, but a lot of us are going to get wet as we head towards evening and into the overnight as well. Here's tonight at 10 p.m. Still looking pretty wet, and look at all the action that's out to the west. So I think tonight's going to be a pretty soggy night across most of eastern Ohio and into western Pennsylvania as well. Let's look at tomorrow a little more in depth then. What we have going on tomorrow is our slow moving front, just sort of lollygagging through. It's going to take until pretty late in the day, I think, before we can start to sound the all clear. Here's middle of the afternoon tomorrow, actually late afternoon, about 5 p.m. Most of the wet weather's gone at this point. I guess I couldn't rule out one more shower on the backside of this, but I think the wettest part of Wednesday is morning, midday, early afternoon. Late afternoon and evening is when we're going to start to really dry things out. Here's tomorrow evening at 8 p.m. And as the model will show, there should not be much going on here. We're in the process of drying, and the dew points are going to start to come down behind this front. Again, my internet's a little wonky today, so looks like the data's not going to come up. All right, so I already showed you 5% chance of a damaging wind gust within 25 miles of any location this afternoon. Real quick animation of those dew points behind the front. Won't spend a lot of time on this, but dew points are up around 70 now. It's really muggy out. As we head towards the end of the day tomorrow, I'm going to fast forward to tomorrow evening. Notice what the dew points are doing here. Now, this is a modest change, but the dew points are dropping back through the mid-60s by late in the afternoon or early evening tomorrow. And then some of these cooler colors, some blues starting to show up. Dew points are closer to 60, I think, by tomorrow night and into Thursday. So this is not going to be a big refreshing change, but it will be a change that you will notice. Thursday and Friday will be somewhat less humid than the air mass that we have overhead right now. All right, the end of the week. Here's Thursday. I do think Thursday, at least the start of the day, is going to be fairly cloudy. Some green showing up on our GFS model here. I think this is bogus. I think this is picking up on clouds and not precipitation on Thursday. It'll turn out to be a partly sunny afternoon. Here's a look at Friday, and this is probably the best day of the week as high pressure drifts across the eastern Great Lakes. Should have some sunshine Friday. It's going to be warm, but not that humid just yet on Friday. Heading into the weekend, the humidity is back as that high slips to the east. We'll get a southerly flow on the backside of this, and with the increase in heat and humidity comes an increase in instability, and I do think there'll be some classic summertime popcorn hit or miss type of storms Saturday and again on Sunday. So keep that in mind if you have outdoor plans this weekend. Last weekend in June, and a real classic summer weekend coming up. We'll be well into the 80s. It's going to be muggy, and especially as we get into the afternoon, we'll be dodging those real random thunderstorms that probably won't be severe, but will bring some downpours to some parts of the Mahoning and Shenango valleys. That's the Tuesday afternoon weather for Weather Geeks video. I am on the, what I like to call the Bob Black schedule. I've got more time off coming up tomorrow through Monday. So no Weather Geeks those days. Mike Joyce will be in filling in at 6 and 11 tomorrow, Thursday, Friday, and Monday. Hope you have a great rest of the week, and back to full-time status for me. No more time off starting on Tuesday of next week. It's back to normal. So I look forward to seeing you then. In the meantime, this evening, be sure and follow my posts on social media, Facebook and Twitter. I'll keep you in the loop on what's going on the radar and the latest threats. So I'll see you next week. Have a great Tuesday.